Hello, I'm Ranger Rob, and welcome to the Ranger Rob Country Living Podcast.
All right. Y'all ready for some freedom loving, country living, self-reliant Americans in action? Rob and Sherry know just what you're looking for. They got cooking, building, installation, and so much more. He'll be coming down the mountain, won't he? This fella ain't no phony. You can know what he knows, one video at a time. Ranger Rob, country living. Ranger Rob, country living.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ranger Rob Country Living Podcast. This is episode 4. And today's subject is about basically what our mission is and kind of discussing some of the observations we've made in the last few years and why we do what we do. So before we get going, I need to let you know that we are on Good Talk Radio. You just go to goodtalkradio.com, go to the schedule, and you'll see when we play all of our episodes. We also are on Spreaker, which is a really good platform for podcasts. And we're on several other platforms, including Podcast Addict, which is a great free application to download to your cell phone so you can listen to our podcast along with many others. So welcome, and this is our audio version of Ranger Rob Country Living. It's an hour show. Yes, we do have sponsors, so we will be playing a couple of, fill-ins for to help support our channel. The other thing you might find out is when we own radio stations, which is Good Talk Radio, Good Music Radio, which is part of the Cutting Edge Radio Network. And we also own Cutting Edge Ranger Rob Poopy Bags. Just wah, 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 wah. I know. So, yeah, that's a product that we created about a few years ago. We sell them on Amazon, and we also sell our hats, which, like, I'm wearing the Ranger Rob Country Living hat. And you can find all those links down in the description below. So, hey, welcome. I'm glad you're here. So, the mission of, and what got me going on mission is I just got contacted the other day. Somebody was asking, well, I live near you, which is true. He was on Crooked River Ranch, and asked if he could have a tour or, look at what we're doing. And the answer is absolutely yes. So we do what we do to show other people ideas. And then the other part is, since I represent a older generation, showing older generations that, yes, we can do this. There's no, high technology. Even if it was, there's people my age can handle high technology. I'm somehow getting to it. So today I've got some yummy Colombian coffee, and sorry, it's early, and so I gotta get used to talking. Wah, wah, wah. I used to do a lot of this, and so. So when I don't do as many podcasts anymore, the throat gets a little Twitter-pated. So the mission of Ranger Rob Country Living is to share, basically share, and to show people that it's okay to fail, and watching people like me and Sherry start something from scratch and literally pull it off. So, the big thing we've been talking about has been hydroponics, but it's also prepping and homesteading. So, primarily when we first got here, it was kind of focused more on the homesteading and prepping, where we just realized that with the 5 acres here, we had to get some backup systems. First thing we bought was a very large generator. Had some things rewired on the property. Before we could even do hydroponics, we had to get more access to higher amperage plugs to run our pumps and stuff like that. Not exactly where we want to be. That was kind of costly. We had some modifications here to get done. And also we had to build some of the infrastructure, like the greenhouse we have that we show on our videos, and our chicken house. And then, once we started thinking about what we're going to do outside, we did the NFT hydroponic system, and we had to build that. And I'll live, really. And we have some other systems we've been thinking about. So we wanted to kind of get through this summer to kind of figure out, the pros and cons of what worked, what didn't work. There's definitely processes showing up that could improve a lot. One is just dealing with the hydroponic tanks. So one thing I want to mention for those of you who watch people that make hydroponic tanks or Dutch bucket systems or NFTs and stuff, and it depends, and it doesn't matter if they're in a greenhouse or if they're in the outside. When summer comes, don't underestimate the size of tank that you have. I am amazed of how often I have to refill my nutrient tanks in the summer. In the spring, it was like, maybe every 4 to 5 days. In some cases, right now my Dutch buckets, now my tomatoes are pretty good size and it's warm. I am burning through almost a tank of 38 gallons of nutrients a day. Yeah, it's like them with some thirsty tomatoes. The bigger those tomatoes get, the more they just suck up that water. It was amazing. So, and I almost got burned a few times because I didn't realize that they were going through so much water when it warmed up. And so now I'm quite alert of checking those tanks every day to make sure I don't burn any pumps dry. So obviously it's starting to make me think of backup systems. How can I have backup tanks? Can I have automatic fillers? Things like that. I don't know the answer to that yet, but I'm working on it. Cutting Edge Radio Network now has 3 major stations that you can enjoy. Good Talk Radio bring you 24/7 of high-quality talk shows. Good Music Radio bring you 24/7 of classic rock and top hits. And Good Old Radio 24/7 vintage radio shows, podcast form, and 24/7 radio. So come join us at Cutting Edge Radio Network for a full flavor of radio entertainment. And we are back. So the subject today is kind of the mission of the RangerRob Country Living channel and why we created it and some of our concerns and things like that. One of the things I've never shown anybody is people say, I was telling everybody it was about time I changed cameras. So let me show you real quick. I know this is audio, but I am showing up what's called a Hero 3, which is a GoPro. And it's a Hero 3. So this camera, if you can't see it on the audio, it's the old version of GoPro. I used that for several years because before all this, I also owned RV Travel Buddy, which Sherry and I traveled on our RV fifth wheel for quite a bit. And so we did a lot of videos for RVing. And we wanted a simple camera that you could grab and go, and it was an action camera. And we used that a lot. I've done so many videos with that. Probably 90% of the videos we do is with a GoPro. And then the other times I use a camera, which just happens to be right here, is a Canon G40. And for those of you who are watching the audio, the Canon G40 is a larger version of a handheld. They're a little bit over $1,000 for one of those, but we use those because when we get into real scenic stuff and we want to zoom and all that kind of stuff, we have a much higher quality travel camera. And it was easy to take on hikes, take on trails, things like that. But finally, probably due to age, I've noticed watching my videos that, things were getting a little shakier and things like that. And I finally moved to, and I'll show it here. You can't see it on audio, of course, but This is the GoPro 9, and it comes with a case that is really nice because I'll put it in and cinch it up for people to see it. A second here. I got to reset the thing. Sorry. Come on, reset. So this is it with the case. Now this little microphone actually works really well. The problem is with it, sometimes if you get behind it, people have, you don't hear as well as in front of it, but it's got a good wind protection too. But the biggest thing about this little camera, the Hero 9, is it's got stabilization in it. So I've noticed my videos are being much more smoother, less irritating to watch. So, and I think that's an age thing. But anyway, I decided to kind of finally show people the new camera we actually are starting to use on our regular daily shows. We also use another camera. It's called a Brano. This is what we use for our time lapse. Just happen to have these off on my desk at the time. All right, so getting back to our mission. The mission is, I tried, I'm a patriot. There's no doubt like that, but I'm not a crazy one. I'm not buying camouflage and bulletproof vests and all that crazy stuff. But I do think that, especially with the droughts coming, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I moved up from Arizona, to at least be prepared. And what level of being prepared that you want to do is totally up to you, and obviously your budget, and obviously how big a family you got. It's just me and Sherry, so it's pretty easy for Sherry and I to kind of back up everything. But if I had our kids, which are all grown now, I had to worry about keeping their bellies full. Thank goodness I have chickens. That's all I can say. And so I don't want to be that father. I don't want to be that husband that says, I should have done this, or I should have done that. What if I would have put some water away? What if I had some extra food? Even if I just buy the buckets of dried food that costs, between 60 and 120 bucks a piece for a 1 week supply or something. But what if I would have done that during this crisis, whatever this crisis may be, whether it's, power outages or, something crazy, earthquake knocks out power for a while, or, some natural disaster or something man-made. I just don't want to be that person. And I kind of hope you don't want to be that person where after something happens, you go, gosh, I should have saved water. Gosh, I should have had something to heat water. I should have had extra flashlights, and maybe I should have had some two-way radios or something. So, but I don't urge people to go berserk either. You don't have to have the greatest hunting knife in the world and the all-purpose shovel and with blades on it and Rambo stuff. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just saying, at my age, I'm not super old, but Sherry and I would most likely try to hunker down, because to me, those people that talk about bugging out and having a bug out bag and stuff, I understand that, but at our age, bugging out is a little more practical now than it was in Arizona. A 60-year-old guy carrying a backpack down the highway, I probably wouldn't make it to Vegas. But anyway, besides, I just feel like if things are really bad and you're cross-country backpack, bug-out bag thing, all that says is shoot me. I've got lots of stuff to take. And anyway, and if you have faith like I do, it's like if it's meant to be that we're supposed to go kaput, then it's God's will. But anyway, our biggest plan is hunkering down and staying in place. And, I'm not going to be talking about boomsticks and freedom seeds and stuff, which is a code word for something we don't want YouTube to get after us about. And, but we're hoping on our show, we're showing you what you can do. For us, we increased our food production on the garden something fierce by switching over to hydroponics. However, we're not doing everything hydroponics. We're also doing conventional. I'm not taking one side or the other. I got to tell you, hydroponics is amazing. And if we have a water shortage, hydroponics is a good answer because you don't use that much water. Yes, I was talking about the tanks being filled a lot, but that's a lot less water than you would use on a conventional garden. And I secured with generator and a backup system electrically on our well to be able to pump water when I need to, but I still need to store water more, because eventually, if it was a long period of time, it takes fuel to run a generator. And without fuel, no generator, which would be no water. And so I don't know exactly any other way. I know there's hand pumps that you could put on your well, but it's 400 feet deep, so I'm not too sure how. I have to have somebody kind of come out and analyze my scenario. And I tell you one thing, when it comes to like electrical and pumps and all these modifications, it wasn't cheap to do even what we've done so far. So I guess when we do prepping and we talk about being prepared, I hope that we show as our mission is a realistic way to do it, affordably. Do what you can by hand, build what you can by hand, learn some new ideas. And right now you got YouTube. So, like for example, Sherry and I would be out in the garden and go, what are we going to do when all this corn we have is ready to pick? How are we going to do it? So you just go on to YouTube and say processing corn and look at all the ideas and things to prepare for. So you're ready. And it's like the next next question out in the garden will come up is like, how do I know if these zucchinis are going to grow or these cucumbers? And how do I know when they're ready to pick? Go to YouTube, type it into the search. There it is. So I got to tell you, other than the politics and the freedom of speech problems with YouTube, YouTube is a great library for learning things. And that's great. That's a great way to look. And you can get different opinions, different regions. Some people grow in the Northwest. Some people grow down south. Some people grow down in a tropic area. Some people are up north in Canada. And you can actually even find preppers and homesteaders that are kind of close to your region and learn from one another just through that YouTube. And that's amazing. So, so we just want to be a friendly channel. We want to show the practicalities of being a little prepared. We don't want you to be that person that says, what if? Why didn't I? Or I can't. Where we're showing you, yes, you can. This old fart here is pulling it off. And perfect? No, not by any means. We are not. We could do much better on probably our engineering and things like that. But that's what I think our channel's positive about, is being the average Joe, if you want to. I don't know if I'm an average Joe, but taking one step at a time at new things, raising chickens. Sherry and I probably, and a lot of you guys might be the same way, aren't going to be too radicalized yet, like raising meat birds or turkeys or anything like that, because part of our age, and two is got a lot of freezer space. So I do buy a lot of that stuff and freeze it and have a pretty good backup from easy 6 months, pushing 1 year. And that's been our plan of attack. But if we see food getting any worse, I will be building a meat chicken pen and starting to go that route. I have no problem with butchering chickens and turkeys. I can't have pigs on in this area. We do have some ordinances, but we can have several other kinds of animals here. but I'm not really interested in those because any animal you bring is one animal you have to feed. And I got to tell you, this time of year is awesome with the chickens because with a big garden like ours and hydroponics, we're always rotating and moving things out. And there's not any food waste. Either old food or things we take off the NFT goes into the compost bin or goes to the chickens. And what's that do? Well, it reduces my chicken feed cost, and that's a wonderful thing. One of the next things I wanted to kind of bring up is reality. Limitation checks. For example, I've been watching a couple of really interesting videos, younger people. There's like this couple up in Canada on Vancouver Island that they tried or doing, they are not trying, they're actually doing it, being self-sustaining, where they don't have to buy any of their food from grocery store. All their food would be self-sustaining. And so now the advantage they got over most people is they live on a small lot against the ocean. And Vancouver Island area is one of the healthiest places for seafood and fish. So, they're also able to even do a simple thing as making their own salt from the salt water. But you have to ask yourself, how far do you want to go with all this? And if I was younger, I'd probably be doing a lot more things. But also, they're funny because they're young, and I was watching something where they were killing their first turkey, and it was like, there's a better process for that. Anyway, but you got to learn. So that's not criticizing. That's going, hey, they're learning and they're trying. And it'll be, to butcher your first animal can be kind of hard to take. You got to have the right mindset. But the important thing is if you're going to butcher an animal, to do it the most humanely way you can, and also make sure those animals have quality lifestyles until that day. So where do you draw the line? Where do you say, I want to do this, but can I? Do I have the energy? How's my health? Is it just me or you and your wife or your partner? So yeah, that's the hard part. Like when we first got here, Sherry had a year off, and just out of luck. So we were able to accomplish a lot of infrastructure quickly because it was her and I both. But now that she's working, and which is what helps us have good health insurance and stuff like that. So now it's me alone, and so just like today, I've got radio station stuff to do in the mornings. Now I'm doing a podcast. This is keeping me, which I'm not complaining, from being able to do stuff out in the yard. It's really hot weather right now, so we're not gaining ground on projects as fast as we were when Sherry and I both were here. So that's a reality too. So do you find property that is already semi-developed? At our age, Sherry and I, super glad we already have a large shop and a barn area to store all our stuff. We bought this property with a lot of equipment already, like lawnmowers and tractors, and put that in the deal because to maintain the 5 acres, we needed it. It already had its water system for the grasses in the main house already installed. It already has a well. We didn't have to pay for, to get a well put in can be between $15,000 to $35,000. You never know, depending how deep you have to go down. And so a lot of infrastructure was already here, and that makes sense to me and Sherry, where other people buy raw property and go through the whole rigmarole of building from scratch. I don't think Sherry and I are up for that. And in fact, I'm sure we are. And especially now when it's just me and really no help. And that's not complaining or anything. It's a reality check. What can you do? So like, for example, where we live, there's lots of 5-acre lots with houses and smaller. You don't have to have 5 acres. You can do lots with an acre. And do it fairly reasonable. If you're coming out of the city and coming to a place like this in Central Oregon, you'd be able to buy a pretty decent place to do homesteading and have money left over. And it's important you have that money left over to handle the infrastructure, not just building buildings, but also, supporting utilities for those buildings. If you need power or water out in your fields or anything like that, that costs a lot of money. And maybe you need to have, put new pumps in and things like that. You need the money. Maybe the homestead you're buying is a beautiful little thing, but needs improvement like we had. We had to put siding and a new roof on this house. And we negotiated that in the purchase. But anyway, those are the things you need to talk about and think about. But anything moving forward, like Justin Rhodes would say, try to do 1% improvement to everything you're doing every day, and pretty soon it just adds up. And that's where Sherry and I are at. We've gone a year really going at it. And sometimes we just sit down and look at the garden stuff and go, wow, look what we've done. But it took us a year to get just that infrastructure built. And there's more. We're thinking about another greenhouse that is devoted to NFT. So our biggest concern, and we're learning here, is our NFT is awesome hydroponics, but it's outdoors. And when we get this hot weather, it's just brutal on things like lettuce and stuff. So we'd love to have a nice NFT system that is in a greenhouse, because when we walk from our greenhouse out to the outdoors, we have such a big change. If I take one of my plants out of the greenhouse and put it in the NFT outside, that plant will go nuts because it's so hot. And a lot of times they'll just go straight to seed or go to flower and become bitter. So right now it's like, I got this beautiful NFT system, and now I've got to find the plants that can handle this kind of weather. For example, Swiss chard is doing great. But spinach is goners. Any kind of lettuces I put out there, they immediately react to the heat. So now I'm learning how to rotate my crops based on the seasons. Now, in another month and a half, now we're going to be starting to think about what am I going to do for fall crops. So then I can start changing up my process. Now, this is all new to me, so I don't know my timing yet. So some stuff I've been successful on by accident, and that's okay. And that's what we're all about, is trying, failing, having some good luck. I call it beginner's luck. Beginner's luck is amazing. Sometimes you just accidentally nail it. And so it's kind of fun. But, if you're a perfectionist, this kind of lifestyle might drive you a little crazy. Things with hydroponics, things with growing things, sometimes you can kind of get away with half-ass. I'll just use that terminology. And you're okay. You don't have to have these perfection, beautiful gardens. I mean, sometimes you get on YouTube and you see these immaculate systems they really put some work into their stuff. And then the next guy you see has got everything tied up with twine and he's killing it on his garden. And maybe it's not weeded as nice as some of the other refined ones. And the answer is who cares? You're doing it. It's not about how you get there. It's when you get there in your own way. So I embrace people to, don't do it exactly like me. Don't do it like the other guy next door. Do it how you feel comfortable. And, but do it, because please don't be that person that goes, what if I would have stored some food away? What if I would have had something to heat water? What if I had extra things to keep us warm in the winter? What if I had installed that fireplace I should have and made that little rocket stove in the backyard while we're sitting here in a power outage? I just don't want to be that person. And I really hope that you're not that person either. Get prepared, try some of this stuff out, have fun doing it. And by the way, any of the stuff you're doing, if you got children, gives you great excuses to pull them away from the video machine games and put them to work and let them understand and teach them how the earth works, how creation works, how hard work can be a payoff, and all these little things that you can do in a homestead will help develop your kids into great adults in the future, where they understand food does not come from the grocery store. It comes from somewhere else and comes to the grocery store. And someday that grocery store may not look the way that you see it today. Have your kids prepared for that by knowing how to grow stuff, knowing where their food comes from. Let them grow a couple of meat chickens and go through the process so they understand the real world. It's important because so many kids just don't know all this stuff, and their parents aren't showing them. So why not just dive in, learn it together as a family, learn how to use tools properly, learn how to build structures, and it doesn't have to be perfect. You just try again, as they say, and before you know it, you have a thriving little homestead, and you have a growing family with skills that they'll retain for a lifetime. We know most of you are responsible dog owners and want to keep our parks and recreational areas pristine. Most of us have been stuck with cheap dog waste bags that are inconsistent and cumbersome. That's why we created RangerRob Poopy Bags. RangerRob Poopy Bags are larger, deeper, stronger, and leak-proof. Most of all, they have handles that make the bag easy to turn inside out and to seal with your dog's business. RangerRob Poopy Bags are lemon-scented, eco-friendly, and come in sheets and now in rolls. Stop getting stuck with cheap waste bags when you can have a RangerRob quality premium dog waste bags. RangerRob Poopy Bags are cost-effective. They're in Amazon, and you can get free shipping right now. Make picking up dog waste easier and comfortable. RangerRob Poopy Bags, making dog waste pickup a little easier. Okay, guys, I'm back. And so one of the things I wanted to talk about was the benefits to your body being a homesteader. Now, I came from Arizona, and we got a little bit of a garden going and stuff out there, but nothing at the level that we're doing here. But I got to tell you, in the 1 year time that it's been about a 1 year anniversary since we hit the homestead up here, and with all the stooping and carrying bags and potting soils and chicken feed and building things and using tools, and I lost weight, which is a really good thing. I really needed to. I've definitely gotten a little chunky, and Sherry too. In fact, Sherry was kicking ass. And now she had to go back to 9 to 5. Now she's having troubles trying to hold that weight down, and understandable. You go into an office and sit there all day long, and it's been warm, so she can't really go for walks or anything right now. But she works hard on the homestead, and it's good for her. But when she had to go back to the 9 to 5, she's fighting a battle, and yet I'm still kind of sustaining. And I haven't really changed my eating habits so much. It's better, and we're definitely eating a lot more fresh foods. But one of the things I've mentioned before in older shows is Sherry and I tried being vegans for about 4 months, is about as long as we lasted. And that was a great experience. One is it taught us how to cook differently. And two, it actually created a craving or a real appreciation for vegetables. And so I urge everybody to try to go vegan, even if you did it for a month or two, because you will get a whole new respect for vegetables, and you'll start cooking differently and be more aware of what you're putting in your body. And then if you want to introduce meat back, which is what Sherry and I did, we gave ourselves kind of a regulations of no more than 4 ounces is our goal when we serve dinners now. Instead of buying that big old 11-ounce steak, you take a 11-ounce steak and cut it in half and trim it and then split it with each other, and it's almost the perfect 4 ounces you need. So like, instead of like, oh, you want me to get some ribeye? Sure, dear. It's not a ribeye a piece. It's one ribeye that may be a little thicker than normal little ones and cut in half, giving us our 4.5 ounces of meat. Ribeyes you tend to trim a lot anyway, and kind of keep that under control. So yeah, health benefits of being in a homestead and doing the work on a regular basis has been one of those things. Is like, we don't sit there. Sherry probably does it more than I do. She checks, the scales a lot more. But me, I went about 6 months or so, and I finally like, gosh, I realized my pants are a little bit looser. I'm tightening my belt more. And then I kind of got in the scale, and I'm going, oh my goodness, that looks pretty good. And I've been able to sustain it because I'm working every day. And poor Sherry, she's got to do the 9 to 5, which is, I wish we could change that, but it's important. And the realities are people have to work. And also health insurance is everything. And if you don't have good health insurance and something happens, you could be financially wiped out. Now, I know there's programs and stuff out there that could help, change that. But right now, you've got to have it. And if you don't pay them bills after you go to the hospital, they will haunt you. So been on both sides of the fence. But right now we have really good health insurance, thanks to Sherry. And she really misses working on the homestead every day, full time. She really enjoyed her year. And we're not, it'll be a few years before she can retire. But that's what you do as a couple. That's what you do as a family. You make the sacrifices. We do what we can. We, back in the old days, our whole life was our children. And it's just something we know. I know that the new generations are out there. They're all woke, and it's like, it's all about me. And really, Sherry and I, it's always been about us. I do what I can for her, and keep in mind what would happen if I wasn't around, or if we had an emergency. And back when I had my kids, it was always about my kids and learning something new, and never letting my kids hang out at the house. And of course, we didn't have to deal with the video games and stuff like that, but we always kept them active, always kept them seeing new things, new ideas. And both our kids came out really good kids with very versatile things that they do in their careers. It's amazing. So yeah, the homestead life has some real benefits, not only for food, but being more self-sufficient, and helps you with planning for emergencies. But it also has health benefits of working the property. And no, you don't have to have 5 acres. In fact, if those who watch our video, you'll notice that our property is only fenced 2.5 acres is where we do our main stuff. We have another almost 3 acres we don't even touch. And it's there for any other use we might want for it. But in the meantime, we're doing everything within 2.5 acres. And we're thriving and have lots of elbow room left. So yeah, you just don't have to have tons of acreage. And it's really all about your location, your property, the climate, the soil quality, things like that. We have really bad soil quality, and that's one of the reasons why we chose to go with hydroponics. But you can improve your soil quality also by composting and having animals, and let them help develop the soil quality of your property. So there. Another big observation I've made in the homesteading world is, hey, my wife or my husband wants to do this too, but isn't as enthusiastic about it as I am. So a lot of people compromise, and for example, a good channel to watch, probably just like ours, same scenario, Goldshaw Farms. Anyway, he's got a wife that works too, same scenario. And so the question is, don't you get lonely? He doesn't have any kids around, neither do I. And I can tell you, I don't get lonely. However, I don't interact with people that much. But with all the animals, you just find yourself totally engaged every day with our animals, our dogs, the chickens and stuff, the plants, the chores. And very rarely do I ever feel lonely. And so I think there was another video that the Goldshaw Farm guy talked about, is like people, in the comments say, don't you get lonely doing that every day? And the answer is no. You're so engaged that you just don't miss people that much. And sometimes, especially with the COVID days here, maybe being around people isn't always that good right now, and keeping your distance is a good thing. It doesn't mean I don't want to see people and don't want to be part of the community. And if you watch our video, you say that we had a really great community thing on the 4th of July with our church. So yeah, I'm not saying you don't want to be a hermit. But I am saying that once you get your homestead up and running, and maybe only one part of the family's doing it while the other part's doing their part and something else, if you're worried about being alone, don't be. Once you got your infrastructure going, you're a busybody, and so the days fly by. The projects, it seems like you can never catch up on. There's always animals that need your attention, or either feeding them or playing with them. And there's never a dull moment here. So don't worry about it. You're not going to be lonely. And if I was alone, I would probably reduce a few things to make it easier for myself. But you see a lot of guys at Homestead by themselves, and people wonder, don't you get lonely out here? And most of them would go, nope, I got too much things going on. They like the peace and quiet. They like the distance between large groups of people, or like to avoid the city, because that kind of lifestyle isn't for everyone. So yeah, don't worry about getting lonely. Now here's a big subject that comes up that a lot of people fantasize about a little bit, is you hear this, I want to build a homestead that my children will want to take over. And I have a reality check for you on that one too. Your kids may not want to, or they may want to pursue, careers and things like that, and their interests, they may come back to it in years in the future. And I remember as a teenager, my father taught me a lot of great things. It wasn't homesteading, it was a lot of, other things. But I found myself, it's like, yes, I will be like my father in some cases, but I'm going to do it my way. And so I didn't need his property or some of his products, or maybe a vehicle or some thing from him, other than the fact that I got the drive from him. And you may find like I have a son that actually has his own little homestead, and maybe in the future he might want to take over this one somehow, or maybe he'll take this one and sell it and create a new one. I have a daughter too that's more city oriented, and may look at something like this right now and it's like, you're nuts. But maybe in another 15, 20 years we'll go, I think we'd like to take that over and take over the homestead. If not, they sell it, split the money between the two kids, and they go about their own dreams. So if you have this romance of this beautiful piece of property or farm I got, and I want my children or the next generation to take it, that may not be the case. And don't be disappointed. You may have taught your kids to be independent and go get them kind of kids, and they may want to just do it themselves. Maybe they don't want the homestead. And so to me, it was kind of like, I had that romance about it, but I recently had a kind of a family reunion, and I'm kind of like going, I'm not sure either one of these are people, two kids are that impressed with it. Not that they don't have great careers and great homes and stuff that they have already, but don't build your homestead always with the idea of it's for the next generation. That's the one thing I've noticed with the Justin Rhodes show, is he's always talking about his father owned this and my kids will want it. Well, those kids will start thinking more independent, or eventually they may say, I ain't doing this every day. I want to go, I want to go in the Air Force, or I want to be an engineer. I want to be a doctor. And that's okay. Maybe after they retire from all that, then they might want to do something like this. It's going to happen differently than what you'll get this mindset of thinking generational wise that somebody will want to take over this. So I'm building all this for my future kids. And that may not be the case at all. And that's something you got to realize. And don't be depressed about it. It's just your children have their own drive. They have their own path that they want to do. And they want to do it, at least my kids want to do it on their own. They don't want help. And if they do need help, they'll let us know. But the older they are, the more they're going, we're independent. You didn't raise us to be dependent on you, Mom and Dad. You taught us to be independent and self-sufficient and go take care of our own families. And that's a great thing. So, yeah, get over it, guys. I don't know. If the romance goes on when the kids take it over, that'd be wonderful too. But look at the homestead. If it's a good homestead, let them sell it. Take that money and do something positive with their families' drive and inspiration. And yeah, kind of sad sometimes, but it's reality. All right, guys, here's a subject that we have people hint around with and stuff. And so I'm going to address it because I'm probably a good example of it. And that's critters. And so, now this is different if you lived in Arizona, or if you live here, if you live on the western side of Oregon or Washington, if you live up north in Alaska, or you live in Alabama and some of those other places. How well do you handle critters? And when I'm talking about critters, I'm talking about bears, aggressive animals. How do you deal with snakes and weird spiders? Snakes. I hate snakes. Weird spiders, scorpions, things like that. How well can you handle that stuff? Ticks. Some people up in the Missouri area and stuff like that, or Maryland. Gosh, I don't know if I could handle the tick problems they have up there. There's other critters out there that could be a problem depending on where you live. So how do I deal with it? Well, I don't like snakes. However, I can handle the snake if I see it first, but it doesn't seem to be the case. Where we live, we do have rattlesnakes, but not very heavy, not like other areas I lived in. They tend to be in the more predictable areas like canyons, rocky areas, riverbanks, stuff like that, where you would expect to see them. Very rare would you ever see them in a place where I live. However, I do have the little gardener snakes and boa constrictors. So occasionally, like just the other day, Sherry and I were just sitting in some chairs in front of the garden, resting in the shade. And I look over and I go, there's a snake over there. And it's just a little gardener snake kind of shooting across the path, going into our garden, which I'm going, well, good. I mean, there's a purpose for those animals. Anyway, but they still kind of give me the willies. And, but it's a mindset. I used to, as a kid, catch snakes all the time, all that stuff. But I actually had experience where we used to catch little red racers and stuff, and they could get pretty pissed off. So we had some times where they were kind of mad and kind of scary. And I think after that, pretty much, I started leaving snakes alone. But I have a respect for them. But I'd be terrified if I had to deal with snakes that are really venomous. I don't know how well I do with that. I would do what I have to do, but I guess I also don't like worrying about the animals either. I watch some homestead people where they have larger snakes get into their chicken hutches and things like that, still eggs. And then Justin Rhodes just had almost 100 baby chicks wiped out by a rat. And so, I mean, we can get those here. We get field rats and stuff, but, you got to deal with critters. We do have the black widows here. I've learned over the years, black widows are where you expect black widows to be. Dark, cool, wet places. If you take a old black barrel and turn it, or feeding trough or something, turning it on its side, I can guarantee you in about a couple of months, you might find a black widow in it. That's what they look for. So when you're in your garages or sheds and stuff like that, you'll find them pretty much in the places where you know black widows would be. And most of the time, it's not like they see you and go, get him. It's more like, run away. And so, it's just making sure you don't place your hand in a place that, common sense, wear gloves more often. And, I've never had a trouble with black widows. And I can go out in my shop right now and find one. No problem. No biggie. We live in harmony with one another. When it comes to scorpions, I've actually seen more scorpions here. Somewhat more so in a different lot that I used to live in years ago. I haven't seen one on this property, but they do exist. And they'll, once again, they tend to hang out under rocks and things like that. You may see one in the garden. That's why it's kind of good to have garden gloves on. And once again, they're usually running away. So it's a mindset of just getting used to the fact that you have to work with nature. But some of these places in different parts of the region, I would have a hard time with. And I've spent a lot of time in British Columbia hunting and fishing. And I haven't been in Alaska, but to deal with bigger predators, that's spooky. But I could deal with that too, just understanding what their needs are and what they're looking for. So, and then being cautious, just like I'm cautious here with our critters. You got to be cautious with critters in other regions and understand their habits, understand their needs, and adapt to what you need to do to stay out of each other's paths. That's probably the best way to put it. But yes, critters are always critters, and you will get over it. If you're a little queasy about that kind of stuff, you'll get over it. You just kind of get used to it. I used to freak out every time I was in the garages here and stuff like that. And now it's just like, looks good, kind of sometimes gander around, be aware. And like I said, head on a swivel a little bit and take care of the issue and just be careful. And you'll live in harmony with all these little critters. All right, now we talked about the little sensitive little critter stuff and all that stuff. We are getting to the end of our show, and I want to thank you very much for listening. Once again, I want to tell you can find us on Good Talk Radio, which is our radio stations under Cutting Edge Radio Network. And we're on so many different platforms, which if you're a regular podcast listener, you'll be able to find this show in all the regular areas. And so one of my favorites has always been Podcast Addict. It's a free software to put on your phone to listen to podcasts, not only this one, but many others. And so, just go from there. So the other thing is I want to thank you, all of our new listeners. We've been getting a lot of new subscribers on our channel and new listeners to the podcast. Please feel free to give us your feedback on things you'd like us to talk about. To go more in depth on, whether it's maybe cooking or preserving, what we're learning. Once again, we're learning from scratch on a lot of the stuff. Preserving would be canning. We're going to be dealing with that when we get all these tomatoes. And another big thing is when we have a freeze dryer, and we've been using the heck out of that thing, and it's causing us to preserve a lot of food that's going to last us a long, long time. So, any kind of subjects that you want us to talk about, whether it's prepping, homesteading, or hydroponics, or our dogs, or little things like that, buying property, what we've observed and things. And we're not the experts on all this, but we can at least tell you our experiences. And we urge you, don't hesitate to ask questions. Don't hesitate to contact us. And if you're in the local area, we'll be happy to work with you and show you what we've accomplished, and hopefully you can take what we've done and go miles farther with it. And so, And one of the big things that probably keeps us going as a homestead and drive is our faith and being self-reliant. And, we strongly believe in freedom and liberty, but we also realize that we have a community that we need to work with, and so we're not rebels. Don't be a rebel, just be smart. That's the big thing. So guys, thank you very much for listening to the RangerRob Country Living podcast. Please be safe out there. Please send us messages. Please take the time to like, subscribe, and share our videos and our audio all over the whole wide world. We would really appreciate it. So guys, have a great day. Until next week, we'll talk to you later. Bye now. Our videos are made possible by RangerRob Poopy Bags, available at Amazon right now. Thank you very much for watching our video. Please take the time to like, subscribe, and share our videos all over the whole wide world. Thanks.